All right, everybody. Welcome to this week's edition of Fresh Takes with Russo and Felice. I am Paul Russo. Nick Felice is not here tonight. Got caught up at work, so I'm riding solo tonight. Just me and all of you. So unfortunately, probably be a little bit of an even shorter one than what we've been doing here recently. That's okay. We'll get through it together. We will persevere through the adversity and discuss three big-ish topics that are going on in world sports today. So we'll get right into it. Hopefully everybody's doing good. We got on tap today. Obviously, so you probably haven't heard enough about Dak Prescott already. We'll talk about that for a little bit. Talk about some spring training. We're about halfway through, give or take, however you really want to call it, spring training games. Really, for the most part, only... we're about 8-9 games in for a lot of teams. A lot of teams only have about 10 to 11 games left. So we're about halfway through spring training here. So we get through March. Speaking of March Madness, more teams punched their ticket into the big dance today. We'll talk about what's going on with that, what to expect. Before I left the house, Nick would be happy. Buzzer beater by the Fighting Irish to advance over Wake Forest play tomorrow. Continue the fight for Mike Bray's coaching life. With that in mind, we'll get right into it, I guess. So Dak Prescott, his bet pays off on himself. Cowboys gave him 4 years, $160 million. Maybe thinking to yourself, that's a bit of a expensive deal. Well, yeah, I will admit it. It's definitely a bit... maybe a tad excessive, but if you're the Cowboys, did you have any other choice? I don't think you really did. Coming from a Washington fan, was Kirk Cousins Tom Brady? No, but harder to find guys competent enough to replace the guys like a Kirk Cousins or a Dak Prescott. Although I think Dak's definitely better than Kirk. It is what it is there. So the main things, obviously, with Dak's contract. So we got $60 million signing up for, I think actually technically it's like 66, but we'll call it for the sake of whatever rounding. So you get 60 up front for signing, another $75 million guaranteed just for next season. So you may be wondering yourself at that point, because guaranteed it's only 125 guaranteed. It's 135 right there. So what's the big deal? Well, when you think about it, the Cowboys could realistically cut him and take him off the books at the end of next year if things don't exactly pan out. Now, there's a little bit more stuff you have to do, dip and dodge through some contracts and some CBA agreement stuff in there. But in theory, the Cowboys could cut him next year at the end of next season. This time, you know how we got guys going on right now with the franchise tag and everything, stuff like that. Theoretically, he could become a free agent again at this time next year. Will that happen? No. Unless the Cowboys magically get, say, like Sam Darnold or someone like that available to them, and they get him. So, I think a telling sign about this contract to a degree is Jerry Jones showing his hand about the TV deal coming up for the NFL. Obviously, it's kind of funny talking about TV deals with the ESPN and NHL one reportedly being agreed to today. So it makes you really wonder, what is the NFL really going to get? Probably a lot more than even we think, I think, at this point. NFL is still a very profitable business. I remember saying in college, I think you might see football go the way of boxing a little bit shortly, and I don't think we're going to see it shortly at this point. Concern myself wrong, but I probably just put the Russo jinx back on them. Either way. So I think Jerry's kind of showing maybe a little bit of a hand of, hey, this is what we got money coming in. This is what I'm willing to give somebody just like Dak. Now, if, say, somebody were to become available through free agency, say, and I'm not saying anything, obviously, although there was a rumor about Zeke not coming back to the Cowboys, but say hypothetically, Zeke goes. They don't have a true number one running back. And again, just using this name as an example, say Saquon Barkley or Dalvin Cook becomes available, free agent. Don't have to worry about any of that, right? Trade wise, flash a little bit of that money around if you're Jerry to one of those two. They'll be. It pains me even saying this phrase. They'll be wearing, the silver or the blue star. So I think Jerry's kind of tipping his hand a little bit, in my opinion. Could be wrong. Probably am wrong to a degree, but I don't think I am. I mean, this is Jerry Jones we're talking about here. He's not he's the definition of flamboyant. At the time when he built what is now AT&T Stadium, it was meant to be the greatest thing ever. It still is nicknamed Jerry World after all. So this is a guy who likes putting the spotlight certainly on himself, not afraid of it. Drafted from his yacht last year. I wouldn't be surprised if he did it again. I think another thing that's interesting about this Dak deal is I think it also shows a little bit if Seattle is definitely shopping Russell Wilson is how much is that price tag on Russ, because if you're Dallas, I think, again, this goes back to Jerry being Jerry, you have what it takes to get Russell Wilson, more than likely, some way, somehow. But obviously the price tag for Russ is somewhere so north of even this deal for Dak, which is record-breaking in many regards, that you just rather roll your well, not really roll the dice, know what you got with Dak, but you're hitching your wagon to Dak and taking what it is for at minimum next year. So that's pretty interesting in that realm as well. Another thing, talking with some people today, well, really over the course since news broke last night, so really it's been over a day now overall, did they overpay? Yeah, 100%. I mean, I've already said that. I mean, you definitely overpaid for what Dak is, but, and this is where I want to dive into a little more, did they really have another option? No, not really. I mean, like I said, this happened with Washington with Kirk. It's happened, in the past a little bit. Think about, really go date myself here, but this shows how long I've been playing more or less video games for. Go back to the Chiefs with Trent Green in a really, really weird way. Let him walk more or less. And you decide to just plug in Brian Greasy, thinking that it'd be fine, and it wasn't. They struggled. They had pretty much a quarterback in there until Alex Smith came along for them. They went through the cycle of Matt Castle, a couple other people too. It shows a pattern throughout history that you at least need a competent quarterback, right? If you're the Cowboys, you can't just try, whatever his name was, Danucci or whatever his name is. I should know. He's an Italian brother, obviously here. But he's not going to be your answer long term, right? This is now again the problem in Washington a little bit. And I will say this, justifiably, Taylor Heineke earned his shot, but he's not the quarterback of the future. So Dallas did what they should have done. Obviously, there are options out there. Could you have gone after Cam Newton? Sure. But Cam Newton is not Cam Newton from what is now going to be 6 seasons ago. It pains me. I've been Cam's one of his biggest non-team fans out there. Cam was the guy that I wanted a quarterback every year for the most part. In my mind, peak Cam Newton is better than peak Dak Prescott. But I think Dak Prescott's better overall than Cam Newton. Dak's been able to do more with less recently than obviously Cam has. I think they did what they had to do. It kind of frightens me saying that because I think, before this, when Dak was a free agent, I thought this was probably going to be Washington and the Giants division here for maybe not 5 to 10 years, but, I thought it was just going to be pretty much them here for a whole bit, but not so much anymore, especially with Dak at the helm. Dak is, I remember him in college when, definitely betting or not betting money on .au sites before it was legalized. You're on Mississippi State. It was a fun team to watch on Saturdays. I remember the Egg Bowl game. I mean, so Cowboys fans, I think you're gonna be all right. I don't think Dak's your biggest problem. And like I said, I mean, most of that money's up front. It's not gonna hurt you long term here. I don't think. Beef up the offensive line a little bit. Sounds like, we got through day one of more or less the taggings and everything like that. And last week they said it was going to be a bloodbath. It hasn't really been a bloodbath so far. Go out, get you an offensive lineman. For instance, Kyle Long's coming back out of retirement. Do I think you should go after Kyle Long? Probably not. I mean, I don't know what to expect out of a guy coming out of retirement, especially on the line after sitting out a year. But there's going to be guys available. I mean, Washington used their tag on Brandon Sheriff, who obviously I hope we would do anyway. But, I mean, offensive linemen are at premium. You've already seen a couple on the move like Trent Brown. Cowboys go out, bolster their offensive line a little bit more like it was a few years ago. Work on that defense a little bit. I don't think the offense needs much tweaking. I think you just hope that Amari Cooper kind of produces like he did when Dak was healthy. And I think the Cowboys probably would become the best team in the East. If Dak comes back, probably like 75 to 80% of the quarterback he was health-wise. You do the additions that you need to do to be a competitive football team. Cowboys would probably be the best team in that division. I'm confident in saying that. So, Dak betting on himself really did pay off here. I think it's going to set a new standard in the NFL, which I think, as a player empowerment person, I think that's really cool. I think it's going to be really fun to see. But also knowing the business side of it, maybe not great. Be interesting to see. They still have a couple more years left on that CBA before kind of like the first exit door, as I like calling it, on these agreements kind of come into play. So we'll see. But overall, Dak's bet really did pay off on himself. So if you're a Cowboys fan, good for you. Hope you enjoy what hopefully is going to be a fruitful number of years for you moving forward. Let's move on over. We'll do spring training first before we get to March Madness, because I really enjoy talking about the basketball portion here. As if I don't talk about baseball and enjoying that. But spring training, like I said, we're about midway through more or less spring training at this point. If you want to really probably put a percentage on it, we're probably at more 40-ish% to 3%. But by the time we do the podcast next week, by the way, episode 100, it will for sure be over 50% for pretty much every team. All teams, really, actually. So what's been going on? The main thing, it's kind of poked up today, actually, recently enough. Pretty much saying now we have a knack, obviously, for the longtime listeners and viewers about breaking baseball news. But the new baseball. So obviously, well, maybe not obviously. Let me backtrack a little bit. This year in the LECOM, which is the Dominican, not Dominican. Again, let me back myself up. Caribbean Series, which takes the best teams from each country's league, puts them in a tournament style at the end of the winter season. They used a new base. This is where we kind of saw the first taste of what the new baseball could be. It was meant to be thicker seamed, and the ball was like 2 millimeters bigger or something like that, which does make a difference. It's meant in theory to, for pitchers, you are able to bite into the ball more on the laces. So if you want to throw an off-speed pitch, say curveball, like your basics, right? Curveball, not to get into whatever. Curveball, slider, even though it's not off speed, the cutter, right? Mariano Rivera's cutter, for instance. Even knuckleballers too, this will help them out. You're able to dig into the ball, right? You're able to dig in, you get a better grip, and you're able to get better bite on the breaking ball with that. Also, it's meant to, and I'm not sure how this math works, it's meant to make it harder for the baseball to be squared up. So again, I don't understand that part of it. I've been around baseball my whole life, but in the not only just the Dominican and Venezuelan leagues in the winter, when you get to the Caribbean series, home runs were down. Exit velo was down as well. I don't think strikeouts were necessarily up, which in a way is a good thing. But you had more balls that were in play, not getting out of the park, and stuff like that. Fast forward, obviously, to today. Blake Snell, headline maker in a weird way, comes out today and says, yeah, I can definitely feel the seams that are thicker. His curveball is more in play. And home runs are down this spring, which is very contradictory to what we're going to kind of discuss next. But Blake's noticing that he's able to get a better bite on his curveball. What I mean by bite is, especially with a curveball, for instance, the drop on it's better. Most curveballs, obviously, you talk about 12.6, but there's also 10.4. A lot of the people, or 10.4. Oh, yeah, it would be 10-4. But mostly lefty use that, and that's gone more way of a slider now. But either way. So, for Blake, even though he's lefty, his curveball definitely comes in at more of a 12-6 drop, right? If you're talking about a clock, 12-6, if you don't know. So his curveball is definitely working better, and that's one of his. His repertoire is four seam, curveball, slider, changeup. So for him, that was actually really his one pitch last year that he definitely needed the most work on. And maybe he didn't necessarily need to work on it. Maybe he just needed a ball to be different. So the ball with the thicker laces this year that they're testing in spring is working in terms of the effectiveness for the pitchers. So guys like Blake, you think of these like heavy off-speed guys now, right? Even though Blake Snell's not that, he only has one true fastball, right? You have some guys who have fastball, so four-seam, two-seam, as well as a cutter. And I include sinker in there as well. But usually those are the 3 to 4 that people have. But Blake only has the one. He has the 4, or then everything else is off speed. So this is going to really enable a guy like him, even though he definitely does have power in his arm. I mean, he was topping, I think, about 98 last year now. You got that. But you think of these off-speed guys now, right? Your Zach Greinke, like the crafty guys, right? Zach Greinke, Madison Bumgarner. He's in this category now. It sounds really weird. Clayton Kershaw, right? The guys who are really good at making the off-speed work, right? Yu Darvish, too, another one. Our guy in the Padres, Yu Darvish, right? This is going to really enable them well. So once these guys get going more games, you still have the pitchers more or less going about to the 40 pitch count range. I know, let's see, had to have been Saturday now, so it's been about 3 days when Bauer pitched, and he was already at 40. And they pulled him out shortly thereafter against the Padres. But that's something to keep your eye on as this goes on, especially at in my mind, the start of the regular season. I think once you get to summer where the air is more hot, and obviously you go around people, they think the ball moves better through the thin air, or doesn't move so well through thick air. I mean, when the air is hot, the ball does tend to fly. So I think it's going to be something more to keep your eye on in the beginning part of this year off the bat in many climates. You're right, your Minnesotas, Detroit, Cleveland, where it's open, colder climate, and see what kind of happens there. You know, the ball, obviously, past few years, the balls have just flied. Obviously, we know now it was it's bad calling it a doctored ball, but that's pretty much what it was. So what I find really funny is I don't think I've seen this many spring training games have Now, I'm not just saying that they've all been getting to 15 runs, but like I look up and there's like a 15-run game every other day now. And it's not like other games are like sitting at like 3-2 or whatever. There's a lot of like 9-6 and 8-5 games. I don't have a problem with it. I mean, as long as it's fun baseball, I'll watch anyway, but as long as it's fun baseball, it's good to watch. And I don't know what's made the spring training any different with the way the scores are. I don't know if it's because you're not having split squad games this year because of, trying to limit travel and limit groups with COVID still running rampant in Florida and Arizona or what. But that's allowing, with even like seeing it now, it's allowing a couple more days, maybe a day or whatever you want to call it, of rest for some of these guys. And they're just able to come out and just play better. And that goes for, even I'm not seeing a ton of single-A prospects this year. That's one thing I've noticed. But even the double-A guys that are there, right? I mean, they're hitting the ball pretty well. They're seeing the ball pretty well. Obviously, you see the ball, you hit the ball. If you see the ball well, you'll hit the ball well. So I think that has a little bit to do with it, is the fact that there's a lot of rest. There's a lot of, no split squads, playing pretty much every other day. Now, that's not always the case. I know some guys prefer playing in consecutive whatever to get themselves ready for the season, and we're getting to that point in the year. But, for instance, you look at the Yankees yesterday, they had an off day. They played Sunday, off yesterday. They played today. I think they play tomorrow and Thursday, and then off again on Friday. So you have like really weird splits where guys are probably going 2, maybe even 3 days of rest. I think that's helping, at least in this case. Obviously, you think in the regular season of a major league game, you don't see 15. The 15-run games are maybe once a week or once every other week in the season. Every now and then you get an anomaly where you have 2 games that are just absolute like bloodbaths of like 13-12 and 14-11, like. But again, that shows just like the grind aspect of it. Even in spring training, in normal circumstances, it is a grind. I talk about the split squad games. That's when you literally take your pool of, say, normal years, you could have upwards of like 50-ish guys in camp at any one time. 25, if you're the Yankees who are based in Tampa for spring training, you have, say, you're home in Tampa for one, and you're going to play Baltimore, which is in Sarasota now. So you have 25 guys staying in Tampa, 25 guys are going down to Sarasota. And next day you have just a regular single squad game in Dunedin against Toronto. So you have guys playing pretty much every day to a degree, whereas this time around you don't have that. So I think that's been an interesting part. Keep an eye on that, though. You never know. For all you bettors out there, I think it's another key part in this, too. Anyway, like I said, just a couple key notes I want to bring up. Jake Odorizzi signs I'm calling it effectively a 2-year deal. It's pretty much a 1-year deal because of the option deal is kind of at the end, but he's got $6 million signed up already, ready to go. $6 million next year, should the Astros and him agree to pick up the option for next year. Be pretty interesting there. Obviously, big news with the Yankees. Today, Zach Britton will be going up to New York. He'll be down for a month, getting bone chip removed from his throwing elbow, left-hander. Big piece of that bullpen and the clubhouse right there will be sidelined. So I'm guessing with him, because they pushed back the start of the minor league season for AAA and AA to May 4th, I believe. So I'm guessing if he's down for a month, that puts him at about April, more than likely. It's March 9th right now. He's getting surgery tomorrow. Puts you about April 10th-ish. You're about a week and a half, 2 weeks into the season at that point. Guessing we won't see him until beginning of May, just because he'll probably be with Taxi Squad rehabbing in Scranton for that. Other key parts that I'm thinking off the top of my head, I can't really think of too much. Jackie Bradley Jr., that's the other one, I forgot. Signed with Milwaukee for the year. Mets were in on him for a while. I'm not too sure what happened there. I think they just said, we'll just roll with Albert Almora and kind of go from there. Bradley Jr. is probably the better of the two, but, I mean, if you're the Mets, kind of a toss-up, I think, for this year in that regard. Other than that, I can't think of too much off the top of my head rest of the way here with baseball. Really excited to get the season going there. Should be a really fun year, hopefully. We'll obviously touch back before the season starts. We'll have our big baseball preview show, hopefully, in the next probably 2 weeks from now. Actually, probably 3 weeks. Yeah, 3 weeks. So, but it's always fun. We weren't able to do it last year. It's probably personally one of my favorite episodes of the year because I really do love talking baseball. For those who do know baseball, I buy Baseball Prospectus every year. Big old thick book. Give you literally every roster, every major prospect. They do the top 101 as a bit of a joke to MLB themselves. So, last topic. I'm surprised I've honestly made it this long. We'll go for probably another 10-ish minute, maybe less than that. Either way, March Madness. Boy, I'm ready. It's been a while. Nick's usually the one hyped up about this. I think everybody's pretty much hyped up about it this year. Bids are starting to get locked up, so let me give you who is already locked in. The Atlantic Sun Liberty is already locked in. The Big South, a team that probably didn't get enough talking about actually during the year, the Winthrop squad out of the Big South, 23-1 record. Big South did have a little bit of a down year overall for them, so I'm intrigued to see how good they probably actually are. They might be a team, we always talk about the top mid-majors with the records that really seem impeccable, right? They're the ones who are going to be the Cinderella story. Usually doesn't end up becoming them now. Gone are the days of Butler where they were just actually good because they were good. With records like that, we'll see. Two of them back-to-back here locked up tonight already. Drexel out of the Colonial, the CAA. They break a drought. I can't remember the exact year. I think it's like 10-ish or something like that. I could be wrong. Horizon League Cleveland State won tonight. I was watching that game a little bit. Excuse me, they're playing Oakland. I almost circled back to the one I'm going to skip over. Northeast, Mount St. Mary's. That is a team I remember from really early on in my first reconnaissance of NCAA basketball tournament and game. The Mount moves in. Morehead State out of the Ohio Valley's in. Southern UNC Greensboro, no surprise. They're usually pretty much the team coming out of there every year. But how about Appalachian State? First time in the tournament since, I believe, the turn of the millennia. Something like that. Part of me really hopes that they become a 16 seed in the selection process and they get to play the hopeful number 1 seed, Michigan Wolverines. I would love that so much. But anyway, Missouri Valley, the one I skipped over on purpose. Loyola Chicago, Sister Jean coming back. They are now, like I said, I'm going to contradict myself a little bit when I said Wilmer, but Loyola Chicago, they are good this year. This team is better than the team that made the Final Four run a couple of years ago. Will they make it that far? I mean, I doubt it. But I think they're a team that you could probably put in your Sweet 16 and be fine with. They swept Drake on the year, and Drake was like at one point like 18-1 against the spread at one point a few weeks ago, and then they just could not cover worth anything tonight. 2 games going on right now to lock up a bid. The Summit, Oral Roberts, and North Dakota State. And then Gonzaga and BYU. I think Gonzaga for sure is probably going to win that game. But the BYU boys, they might probably give them a run for their money. Summit, I personally think, is a toss-up. Mid-majors are usually kind of where I run in the gambling side of things in the sports prop and betting world. Bet Oral Roberts a couple times. I bet North Dakota State a couple times. Both won me some money. Both burned me some money. I wish I could tell you guys straight up who's going to win that game. I think it's going to be a toss-up, like I said. Personally, I like to see North Dakota State. I have a soft spot for the Bison. But you never know. March Madness is a great time of year, obviously, because the one-game sample sizes of stuff like that are so fun to watch. Obviously the NCAA pushes the one shining moment thing, but man, there is nothing I love more in the sports anarchy and chaos world than March Madness. You never know what's going to happen. It's always a fun time. Like in high school and middle school, we were able to watch, like in school, teachers would give us a little bit of a break. I don't think that happens now. Probably disappointed if any of the high schoolers are listening right now or end up listening and watching later. But I mean, I'm not going to say teachers' names, in case they are admittedly still employed and they still do this, and I don't want to throw them under a bus. But in 8th grade, when the smart screen or whatever they're called, smart boards came on the scene. Hey, there'd be a game or two up on one teacher's screen, and we'd be watching. Nothing beats the epitome of being a Syracuse fan than watching Syracuse tournament basketball on the old tube TVs that came in on a rolling card that usually watch Bill Nye on. So it's March Madness. It's crazy. And, of course, everything being in Indianapolis, or, well, technically really Indiana this year, it's going to be nuts. Us Cuse fans are going to be living and dying here pretty much, I think, tomorrow, and should we win the day after and then the day after again. We got the dreaded noon game, folks, against NC State. It's going to be, I think, a tough hill to climb. If we can get the shooting even remotely on, I mean, I like the chances, at least against NC State. We'll see. Buddy's played well. Kadri's come on this in such a great way. And Quincy's played well since coming back from his injury early in the year. God, I'm hopeful. I don't know why I always put my hope in that freaking team, but here we are again. We'll see. I'm really excited to kind of see what Arkansas and Illinois can do here. Well, actually, Illinois really can't do much. I forgot that they can't technically win the Big Ten tournament because of their sanctions. But they're sitting at 130-1 to win the national championship, which is a pretty good economy bet. You talk about the economy, right? Economy bets, right? Good bang for your buck deal. I mean, hey, you never know. That's the type of bet I like rolling about $20 on just to see what happens. I know, big spender, but I'm really excited to see what Arkansas do. They've been a fun team to watch here the past couple of weeks. They've been, hard to say a team that's undefeated. Like Gonzaga's the hottest team, right? Because, I mean, they are the hottest team technically in the country. But, I mean, Arkansas here the past couple of weeks have been red hot, arguably the hottest team, if not number 2 hottest team in the country. Hot at the right time. If they can carry it through the SEC tournament, I could see them leaning, top, overall top 10-ish seed, probably sitting at about a 2 to 3 range. I'm really excited to see what they can do. I'm guessing they'll run into Alabama in the SEC tournament. Team to watch there if they do come up against them. Tennessee. Tennessee's been playing people tough the past couple weeks. Obviously, they were really no one to really mess with at the start of the year. Kind of hit a lull. SEC, though, I mean, you play tough. A lot of those teams just kind of hang in the game and give you fits. I mean, Alabama is good. Like I said, going back to Alabama a little bit, I'm guessing you'll see Alabama and Arkansas meet up, whether it's semis or championship. I can't remember their exact seedings off the top of my head. But that would be their third matchup on the year against each other. So it'd be for everything. And it would be the rubber game. Who would come out on top with that winning record against each other on the year? We'll see there. That's main ones. Otherwise, elsewhere, you look at the Big 12. More than likely, Baylor's to lose. Kansas is down a couple guys with COVID protocol issue. Cade Cunningham for Oklahoma State's back. So they'll probably make, I'll call it a disturbance in the Big 12 tournament. I don't know if they'll really do anything. But if West Virginia makes a run in the Big 12 conference, they might be an interesting bracket buster type team to carry there for a little bit. Goes against my judgment giving advice on the Big 12. I don't like trusting the Big 12 or Big 10 really for that matter, because all they do really is just beat up on each other. And I think overall they're just not that great as we think they are, but I'll back off, let that go. I'm trying to think of everything else. Let's see. Oh, the Atlantic 10. St. Bonaventure, best college team in New York. Possibly. They're still having the A10. I don't know if they'll be exact bracket busters. I think they could win a round one matchup. It all depends on where they get seeded and who they kind of come up against. Kind of the same deal with a couple teams in the Big East. I was high on Villanova kind of the start of the year, and I don't know where they're really exactly are going to fall. They're going to make the tournament easily. Even if they don't win the conference tournament, but I don't know where they're going to really fall. Creighton's probably for sure the one. I know it's a status quo type thing there, but Creighton being a Sweet 16 team wouldn't surprise me. I think if they got the Elite Eight, I'd be perked. But it's going to be interesting there, the dynamic with McDermott and everything going on behind the scenes there. They suspended him and pretty much brought him back after only missing a game over the weekend. It seems like some of the players are fine with it, other ones not so much, which is kind of to be expected. So I don't know how everything's going to shake out behind the scenes there. So maybe Jay Wright, Hall of Fame finalist got announced today, can rejuvenate the Wildcats a little bit and see what happens there. So that's going to wrap up the podcast tonight. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in, watching, and listening whenever you are able to, whether it's live or tomorrow. I know a lot of people do end up watching tomorrow. Normally, Nick would shout out somebody here. Nick's not here, but I will take the honors. I'm shouting out Jim Spina. He is retiring from New York. You lucky, lucky man escaping the freaking tundra up here. Shout out Jim. Made the Seneca Falls Rec program what it is. Best in the area, hands down. Not biased opinion at all saying that, but best in around. I know he's Omake, Harrisburg, North Carolina, the diamond of the Piedmont. So, Jim, thanks for everything. Greatly appreciate you. Shouting out you today. So, Jim, thanks. We will catch everybody next week. We're going to aim for Tuesday again, but it's the 100th episode here on FingerLakes1.com. Really looking forward to it. Not too sure exactly what we're going to do, but maybe do like a greatest hits type thing. We'll jump the shark, if you will, and kind of see where we go from there. But thanks again, everybody, for tuning in. We'll catch you all next week. Like, share, and subscribe. All the fun stuff, and we'll see you next week. Have a good one.